And we're back in Inside the Ropes, and we are joined by one of our biggest names ever to come on the show. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. He wrestled in the territories, Japan, the WWF. He is WWE Hall of Famer, the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. Ted, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on.
It's great to be here.
You know, when we told people that you were coming on the show, one of the questions that everybody wanted us to ask you, and I know you've kind of told this story before, but leading into WrestleMania IV, there's a lot of people that talk about the fact that you might have been originally pegged to walk away with the WWF title at that show. Can you just kind of talk us through going into WrestleMania IV and just sort of being a part of your first WrestleMania and being in that title tournament?
Right. Well, I mean, even though the WrestleMania IV, again, WrestleMania III, the main event was Hulk Hogan and Andre, and that's literally when Andre passed the torch, so to speak, to Hogan. You know, Hogan slams the Giant, which had never been done, and becomes the WWF champion. And even though the core of the storyline was still between Hogan and Andre, it was very much a part of me. You know, because the setup for WrestleMania IV was my boasting that I could buy the title and that I would use Andre to do it. And of course that when the match took place and the twin referees and literally Andre hands me the belt, and obviously the company comes back and says you can't do that, so Andre won't take the belt back, and we have to do something. So they have a tournament to declare a new winner. And yes, initially the thought was that I would somehow, as the $1 Million Man, underhandedly, win the title with Andre's help or what have you. And then it was brought to me this way. I mean, Pat Patterson, who was Vince's right-hand man at the time, asked me this question. He said, Ted, what is going to put greater heat on you? If we go to WrestleMania and you somehow underhandedly win the title, and if you do that, then you do like every other heel. You'll have your run with Hogan, and then then another heel. It's like you feed the machine. Mm-hmm. Or if you go to Mania and actually make it all the way to the last match, you're in the last match, the main event match, but then you don't win. And in your arrogance, you flippantly just say, well, you know what, I don't need your title, I'll create my own. And then everywhere that you go, you walk out to the ring a self-proclaimed champion with with your own belt. And I said, that's the ticket, because wrestling's a business. There are no real champions in wrestling because it's a business. It's about, and obviously, you would think that obviously your best talent are going to be in those key positions, and they are. Mm-hmm. But it's not about whether you're really a champion or not, because it's a work. So when you look at it from a business point of view, it was much better for me to have the $1 Million belt. And now, what I didn't know and what they didn't care to share with me at the time was the other thing that made them start thinking this way was the Honky Tonk Man was Intercontinental Champion at the time. And for whatever reason, I don't know whether he doesn't like Savage or whatever, he didn't want to drop the belt to Savage, because I believe they thought originally that's what they were going to do, is have Honky Tonk Man drop the Intercontinental belt to Savage. So it might have been a way of trying to appease everybody and make everybody happy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, in the long run, me, with that, creating my own title and the whole, I mean, even to this day, I mean, everywhere I go, I mean, it's like every time I do an autograph show, I've got to show up with obviously I don't have the real belt because it's a very expensive belt. Mm-hmm. But everywhere I go to do autographs, I've got this replica of the $1 Million belt, and people love to take pictures with that belt.
The other thing with WrestleMania IV is that you're one of kind of a handful of guys that worked multiple matches at a WrestleMania show. How was that to to prepare for in terms of not just going out for your first WrestleMania, but you were going to wrestle several times and be in the main event?
Well, yeah, it's I guess the easiest way to put it is it's the ultimate pressure. It was a lot of pressure. But again, we're talking about a time when, wrestling was the way that I had learned what we do. I mean, we never diagrammed matches. Matches were never walked through, so to speak. I mean, you didn't know what you were going to do from bell to bell. You knew the finish. You knew how each match was going to end because that was the hook. That was, the way each match ended was the way you kept the crowd interested. And so that was the main thing that you remembered. And, and of course, each guy you work with is different, and what they can do is different. And of course, as wrestlers, we would always talk those things over. But on that particular day, I had three matches. I had the first one was with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I believe the second one was with Don Morocco, and then I get the bye, and then the last match is with Macho Man. So it was a very busy day for me, obviously. But once you're into it, is it nervous? Yeah, there's a lot of nerves. But the other thing about WrestleMania IV was not in a gigantic stadium. It was in a fairly small arena on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. And of course, the biggest thing about WrestleMania is pay-per-view buys. That's where all the money's made, obviously. And of course, the company has grown so big now that Vince used to do a major blowout arena. He would just do them occasionally. He didn't do them every year. It's only since I think I can't remember the number, but they did the WrestleMania in the Citrus Bowl in Florida when Ric Flair had his retirement match. Ever since then, every year they have gone to a major stadium. So WrestleMania, it's like this year we're in the Superdome in New Orleans, and and we're always at a major big venue. But so, and that's the other thing, when you wrestle in front of a crowd of 60 or 70,000 people, that adds a little intensity to the feel. And so it's just like anything, even when I played football, once I made contact, once you have that first play, okay, the nerves are over now, let's just play the game. And so once that first match was over, I was there for business, and I wasn't thinking about the fact that there was hundreds of thousands of people watching by pay-per-view.
At WrestleMania 8 the following year, you would by that point be part of the Money Incorporated team with Mike Rotundo, IRS, and you go up against the Natural Disasters at WrestleMania 8. What was it like going into working a match with those two guys who were so big? And how did you feel about that challenge because this was your first WrestleMania in a tag team as opposed to in singles?
Well, it was interesting. I mean, again, when you work with big guys like that, it's you're limited as to what you can do with them. So a big part of working with big guys like that is, especially when you're a heel, is putting over their size and demonstrating to the crowd that you're trying to paint the picture. It's like, what do we do with these massive guys? How do we attack them? You put over their power, their strength, and everything, but you find a way to knock them down a notch so you can get and then you stomp on them and get the heat. And as it turned out, if I remember right, because of the timing of the event, our time got drastically cut. So it's like we basically build a match, and although we didn't diagram the whole thing bell to bell, we had an idea what we would do and the timing of it, and that all changed drastically because at the last minute they said you've only got this much time. So the match got shortened, and it wasn't the match it could have been had we had the time we thought we had originally to put into it, if that makes sense to you.
Steve Austin at WrestleMania 12. And you've talked quite a bit before about managing Steve Austin, and I just wondered at that point when you were managing him, and he was kind of the ringmaster, the $1 million champion. Did you notice at that point that maybe that character wasn't the greatest fit for him? Did you kind of notice that spending time with him, and how was that WrestleMania experience for you?
Well, I think everybody saw Steve's potential, but I don't think anybody had any idea, what would eventually happen. I mean, Vince put me with a lot of people as a manager. It's kind of like, give them the rub. In other words, because of the kind of heat that I carried, everybody hated the $1 Million Man, and so like anybody that was associated with me was equally hated by proxy. And so, it's just like me and my corporation, so to speak, was like to help elevate some of those characters. And, I know that I can remember the agents at the time that were, talking to Steve. I think some of them were telling him that he needed to do more on television, that he wasn't, he wasn't giving the people enough action or whatever, and what have you. Basically, I told him, I said, don't change anything. Don't change what you're doing in the ring. I said, it's going to take you longer to get over. I said, but once you get over, you are going to be established, and then once you're over, and I said, because the thing is, be unique. You want to be different. You don't want to be the same. You don't want to be like everybody else, because different makes you unique. So keep doing what you're doing. And he did, and because he came across, more than anything else, he came across very believable. And so, it just took him a little while to get into his own thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Get
into
into
groove.
that place where he felt the most comfortable as a character. And of course, nobody, I don't think, I told him, I said, once you get over, I said, then you can do whatever you want to do. And, and I said, I believe you're going to be, one of the bigger stars the company's ever had. Of course, nobody had any idea that it would become what it became.
And speaking of WrestleMania moments, you kind of got another one added to you in 2010 when you were announced as the headliner into the WWE Hall of Fame that year. How did you get the news that you'd be going in, and what was your reaction when you found out?
Well, they actually contact everybody that they potentially want to put in, much earlier. It's like, and then they announce like one every week or every other week. They kind of they build on the deal. But yeah, when they contacted me and let me know that I had been selected, of course, what are you going to think? I mean, it's being elected to the Hall of Fame is you're being singled out, and you're being basically honored by a group of your peers, the people that you're in this business with. And then when you look at some of the guys that are in that Hall of Fame, and you realize that, I look back at that, I realize that some of those guys were my heroes, and to think that I'm being included in that group of people it's an honor, and it's very humbling as well.
And we also just kind of want to finish off here with a couple of questions. You have been quite vocal in the past about the Ultimate Warrior, and that maybe he wasn't as grateful as he could have been for the opportunities that he had, and he's obviously going into the Hall of Fame this year. And I just wonder, what's your reaction to him going in the Hall of Fame? Is it something that you are sort of happy for him, and how did you feel when you found out the news?
Well, again, it's one of those things where, I don't hate the guy. I mean, it goes back to, anybody that watched the DVD, the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, that really tells the story. I mean, obviously, if Vince has decided that he needs to go in the Hall of Fame, then I'm not going to begrudge that, and I'm going to be there. I quite frankly don't know how many of my peers believe that he deserves it either, and it's because, I don't know, it's not just about, it's not about being the star. It's not about it's about a number of things. It's like, and again, it comes right back down to that gratitude. None of us would be stars. And it's kind of like when I was inducted, there were people that I named a list of people that I needed to thank. Harley Race was sitting in the crowd, and I pointed out Harley Race. I think that's the biggest thing is just the overall lack of gratitude that the Warrior has shown, over the years, where it makes most of us go, who do you think you are? It's like, don't you realize that none of this would be happening if you didn't have a lot of help from a lot of people. So, and I think that's pretty much the consensus. I don't begrudge him. You know what? If that's, I'm not that type of guy. I don't hold grudges. I don't have, if I had anything for Jim Hellwig, I guess is I would pity him a little bit because, it's just like I've heard other people say that he just generally has the attitude that it's about succeeding in life, and you're going to have to do whatever you have to do to get ahead, and if that means stepping on a few people, then that's what it means. And that's, in my opinion, a very sad commentary and a very poor way to look at life. So, but am I going to begrudge him for being inducted to the Hall of Fame? No, I won't say that.
Well, I think the one thing that most people can agree on is that his induction speech should be interesting.
Yeah, that's, and I often wonder if Vince has thought about that. Here's his one opportunity to just, lay it all out there and vent all of his frustration with all of us who don't think he's so worthy. So I don't know, and hopefully he won't do that. I don't know. I mean,
time will tell, I guess.
I heard that. Who's inducting him?
Linda McMahon.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then you have to ask yourself why. Why is Linda McMahon inducting him? Maybe it's because maybe he couldn't find anybody else to do it. I don't know. Anyway.
And you mentioned earlier on that in terms of WrestleManias that you were a part of, your favourite moment that you were involved in was your match with Jake at the Sky Dome. In terms of moments that you weren't involved with, when you think of WrestleMania, is there like a moment that comes to mind when you think of WrestleMania? It doesn't have to be one that you were involved in, but just something that you think kind of epitomizes WrestleMania.
I tell you, one of the moments that I felt was, very touching, was the match that Ric Flair had with Shawn Michaels in his, basically his farewell match, because, it was a very good match, and to Ric's credit, for a guy his age to go out there and perform like that, it was phenomenal. And of course, I think everybody kind of felt that. It was a special moment. Of course, Rick continues to have his problems, and again, that's one of those things. That's one of those things that comes along with this crazy business that we live in. It's how you handle those things. And but that moment I thought was pretty interesting, and it was a touching moment. I wasn't there. I watched it on television from home, I think that the Undertaker, like when they, the countdown to, would he win or would he lose, on the big number, and he continued to reign undefeated at WrestleMania. Of course, we're gonna find out again this year, and I guess everybody's already placing bets again too. So, people ask me that, and I'll answer that before you even ask. I have kind of mixed feelings about that. I mean, it's like, one part of me says, you know what, leave the streak, because it's an honor to who he is. It's like because he has been one of those characters who's endured and who will always be remembered. But the other part of me goes, you know what, it's kind of like when Andre the Giant, allowed Hulk Hogan to beat him at WrestleMania III. He passed the torch, and it's like, I feel that's one of those things that needs to be done as well. I mean, because after all, it's a business, and, we're not going to have new stars that, unless somebody, passes the torch, so to speak. So I have kind of mixed feelings about it, but either way, I'll be happy, to put it that way.
Fantastic. Ted, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great taking a trip down memory lane with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Take care. Bye.
You. Bye-bye.